The Celtics. 17 championships. All these dudes know is win. 16 seasons of Red Auerbach. 9 titles. Over 700 wins. Bill Russell is the head coach. He got a couple titles. Over 100 wins. Tom Henson, who was a former Celtic, by the way, and a former New York Knick. 2 titles. Over 400 wins in 9 seasons. Okay? Casey Jones, going into the 80s, a former Celtic. You see Larry Bird right there. 5 seasons. 2 titles. 300 wins. Had to throw in Rick Pitino because he's a successful college coach. He coached Antoine Walker, as you can see right there. The guy next to Antoine kind of looks like Goran Dragic a little bit. You see a young Paul Pierce right there. Doc Rivers, an older Paul Pierce. You see Danny Ainge right there, right next to him. 9 seasons. Over 400 wins. Over 500 for a regular season. This is the Boston Celtics. All they know is win, win, win no matter what. Market size large. Total budget $200 million. They got rivals, but the only rival that matters is the Lakers, baby. That's the only rival that matters to them. You know what I'm saying? But this team right here is spearheaded by their point guard, Mike Conley. Mike Conley played for the Grizzlies most of his career. Playing for the Utah Jazz now. Came from Ohio State. Never really played for the Celtics, but he has a Celtic type play about him that fits with this team. You can think Rajon Rondo, but with a little bit more shooting skill, honestly. He doesn't get as many assists as Rajon, so his passing isn't as good. But his playmaking is just as good. And he can go to the rim, dribble, shoot. He doesn't need the ball a bunch of times. He can average 15 points in the season and be happy. He's not a ball hog. Very smart. He's just a very smart player. And he's just as smart as Rondo, so it would be smart to put him on the Celtics. Richard Hamilton, once again, never played for the Celtics. Was a shooting guard for the Pistons and the Wizards when he was playing. He is the blueprint of Klay Thompson. Him and Reggie Miller are why Klay Thompson even exists as a player today. Klay Thompson scored 40 points and had only 2 dribbles. You know why? Because he watched nothing but film of Rip Hamilton running. That's all he did. That's all Reggie Miller did. All they did was run. And then when they caught the ball, as you can see, there's 2 dribbles. It's just a guy who played pretty good defense, but was just a shooter. Wasn't the most athletic. 6'6", wasn't the biggest guy out there. Pretty wiry. But one thing he did do as he won the championship against our Lakers, was that he ran around. Now get into the legend, Larry Bird, drafted in 1979. The man was kind of old, I ain't know, but whole time he is the future. When he was drafted, he was the future because Dr. J was starting to get old by the time the 80s came. So him and Magic Johnson, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were the future of the NBA. They had to have Larry Bird in there because they called him the Great White Hope. They didn't want the NBA to look too black as far as marketing because there's a lot of black people in the court. But Larry Bird did things that people have never seen, so it was good to call him the Great White Hope because it actually fit. White Man Can't Jump was almost based off of him, low-key, right? But not the greatest athleticism, but he's the smartest player on the court. 6'9", 230. He's not the fastest, but his range is out of this world. Went to 3-point contest and told people who's coming in second because I'm finishing first. Sometimes he didn't even pull off the warm-up while he was shooting threes in the 3-point contest and still won. Played for the Celtics all of his life. Never played for another team. Lifer right here, like Kobe Bryant or something, or Magic Johnson. Very sneaky defense. He wasn't the one to really block shots, but when it came to steals and just doing a lot of smart plays, yeah, that was him. All he needed was role players around him, and he can pass the ball. I mean, he's kind of the blueprint a little bit for LeBron James. Terry Cummings was drafted in 82. He was part of the 80s Bucks. A lot of people haven't heard about the 80s Milwaukee Bucks because they didn't win a championship. It was kind of hard too because there are select few teams winning championships once the 80s started. That would be the Celtics. That would be the Lakers. By the late 80s, it was the Pistons. And then it went into the 90s were the Bulls and Houston Rockets. So you know, the Bucks are a little bit forgotten in NBA history. Also, he was the resurgence of a big man in Milwaukee because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar left for the Lakers in the 70s, and they haven't had someone good since. So Terry Cummings was that plug-in. Kevin Willis, he's like Robert Parrish light. He didn't have a shooting range. He was about defense. You know, he could hit a little mid-range, hit a post move. He was really just about rebounding, honestly. He was about rebounding and defense and finishing broken plays or just plays where the ball didn't go in and he's getting second chance points. Kevin Willis played with Dominique Wilkins, so he ended up with the championship. There he is spinning against Robert Parrish. I think he fits the Celtics pretty well. B.J. Armstrong, people forget that he was the starter for the first three-peat in the Chicago Bulls run. It wasn't John Paxson, and then it definitely wasn't Steve Kerr. Feisty guy, 6'1", 6 foot maybe, has a very good shot. Very good playmaker. His playmaking is better than his passing. You know, he wasn't going to average more than 4 or 5 assists a game, but he was just a good playmaker. And one thing he was good was shooting at all 3 levels. Very good 3-point shooter back when that shit wasn't cool, you know. But just a very good playmaker. Danny Ainge, the former GM of the Boston Celtics for a very long time, created the Big Three. You can blame him. Blame Danny Ainge. Danny had a shot on him, but he was just mostly known for his feistiness, honestly. I mean, he didn't start. He came off the bench. His dribbling skills were okay. His passing was okay. His playmaking was okay. He's just one of those guys that was destined to be very good in the managerial positions of the NBA, a la Phil Jackson, just because of his feistiness. And, you know, there's rumors saying that he would trade his family for first-round picks. You know what I'm saying? So when it came to Danny Ainge, there was no cut cards, and he wasn't really scared to back down from trades, people, anything. So, former Boston Celtic. Speaking of former Boston Celtic, Rick Fox, you're thinking, oh, Rick Fox from the Lakers, you know, the personality, TV personality in LA. Yeah, that guy, he was in Boston before all of that. Not only that, this is 1991 where he's playing side by side with Larry Bird, a year before the Dream Team. Rick Fox played for a long time on the Celtics for a little bit, and then he got traded to the Lakers and helped the Lakers with their first three-peat championship starting at the small forward. Also lost to Rich Hamilton and the Pistons in 2004. Scott Pollard, speaking of the Lakers, Scott Pollard played for the Sacramento Kings during that Lakers 2004-05 run. Used to have crazy hair. He's bald here. Not really special guy. Cam Reddish, highly touted out of high school. He was number 3. Number 1 and 2 went to Duke. That's all I can say about him. Leon Poe, highly touted out of college. Didn't really do that well in the NBA, but played for the Celtics, drafted by the Celtics. In the perfect time because the big three happened to come when he went to town. He didn't really start. He didn't really get that much playing time, but when he did, he was more so efficient because he wasn't shooting the ball that much. So when we do give you the ball, we kind of expect you to put it in the rim. So not much range, just pretty good guy. Speaking of range, Grant Williams currently plays for the Celtics now. Power forward, he can shoot a little bit. Mike James, he can shoot, not really that much special about him. Isaiah Roby, all-around forward, can play center, can play the three. Quinn Snyder is the coach for this Boston Celtics team. Ime Udoka is the current one for real life, but I think they want Quinn Snyder low-key, even though he's not up for grabs. Anyway, mid-range scoring, three-point scoring, post defense, offensive IQ, and low post offense or strengths. Strength, agility, blocks, dunks, and vertical or weaknesses. Obviously, you can tell from the starting five, but also you can tell from just the whole team. The offense, the defensive IQ is really up there. Like I was saying, everybody on that team is smart. Everybody can shoot, mostly, except the power forward and center. And honestly, it's just a very smart team that's going to be running through Larry Bird mostly. But Mike Conley, it can run through him because he's a pretty good point guard. So we're just looking at a little practice right here just to see how things are going with the Boston Celtics. And I can say Danny Ainge is ready.